Hello, everyone. Welcome to our most awaited expert panel discussion on AI-driven testing trends 2023, organized by pCloudy. I'm Shivani, and I'm excited to be your host for today's event. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping rules for today. Your line is currently muted, but don't worry. You can submit your questions during the panel discussion through the chat options at the bottom of the screen. We'll answer all your questions as part of the Q&A section at the end of the panel discussion. Please note that this panel discussion is being recorded, and we will send out the link of the recording so that you can share it with your friends and colleagues later. For those of you who may not be familiar with pCloudy, we are a cloud-based testing platform that offers a diverse range of more than 5,000 device browser combinations for testing mobile and web applications. With advanced automation techniques, integration with popular testing frameworks and tools, and round-the-clock premium support from product specialists, we are trusted by over 300,000 registered users, including small, medium, and large enterprises. When we talk about this topic for the discussion right today, so we understand that the world of testing is evolving rapidly now, and AI has disrupted this field. And with the artificial intelligence coming in and getting advanced day by day, we are witnessing an unprecedented change in the way we test our applications. So today we have brought together a panel of experts who have contributed to pCloudy's annual testing trends report, which we come up with every year, but this year it has been a really different experience since we had done this study together with these panelists that you see on your screen today. This is a comprehensive study on the latest trends and advancements in AI-driven testing and their impact on the future of app development and delivery. So in this panel discussion, we will delve deeper into unique insights into the future of AI in testing. Our panel of experts will share their opinions and insights on the state of AI-driven testing. So the impact that it will bring in the testing industry and how organizations can be prepared for this shift. So getting to our panelists over here. So our esteemed panelists over here are, so we have Aishwarya Gupta, who has more than 20 years of experience in data and AI domain, driving business growth and enterprise transformation. Currently, she is with Wipro as AI practice head. Welcome, Aishwarya.
Hey, everybody.
We have Kevin Pyles, who is an experienced professional in QA and artificial intelligence. He's currently serving as Director of Test Engineering with OC Tanner. He's also an international speaker and a promoter of AI as the future of testing. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
We have George Ukuru, who is Chief Solutions Officer at Test House Limited and is an expert in quality assurance, test automation, RPA, DevOps, functional testing, and many more. He's also a thought leader, author of 3 books, and moderates the Automation Hangout podcast. So George, welcome to the panel today.
Thank you.
We have Jonas Minescu, who's the co-founder and managing director of AskUI, a Karlsruhe-based SaaS startup that specializes in selector-independent UI automation. He studied industrial engineering with a focus on user-centric IT security and QA. He's also the organizer of the meetup group Software Testing Karlsruhe. Welcome, Jonas.
Thanks for having me. Hi there.
We had another panelist supposed to join, Daniel Knott, but unfortunately he is not able to join us today because of an unexpected emergency at his place. So now moving on to our moderator for today's discussion, Avinash Tiwari. He's the co-founder of pCloudy and a renowned keynote speaker and a thought leader with more than 20 years of experience in product development and testing. He is known for his passion for emerging technologies and brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to this discussion. Welcome, Avinash. So without further delay, let me hand it over to Avinash to take the discussion forward.
Thank you so much, Shivani. Great introduction and welcome everyone. There is so much of interest around this topic, and I can see so many of you there as part of the session today. So extremely happy to see that, and extremely happy to have this panel here. Experts in their own areas. Uh, they have transformed testing over a period of time within their organizations. They are speakers in various conferences. So there is so much to learn from these experts for me as well. So I'm really excited to be moderating this session and getting this opportunity to learn from these experts. So with that, what we will do is over next 25 to 30 minutes, we will hear the views and opinions from the experts, and I'll be moderating the session through some of my questions that I have. But you can send your questions in the chat whenever you feel like. You can also direct some of your questions to specific experts, depending on what's your interest area is. And I will take up those questions maybe towards the end of the panel discussion, and we'll try to keep a good amount of time for your question and answers. So that's the format we'll keep. So without kind of delaying further, let's kind of get into the main agenda of this panel discussion today. To begin, I would ask a generic question to all the panelists, I will probably point out the name in no particular order, and you can share your views, and we can go in a round robin fashion. So, I mean, for me, I think it was 2018 where, as pCloudy, we started investing in AI, and one of the first use case that were picked up was object identification, and we were quite impressed with what Google Vision API was offering. And that was the first instance when we started using AI. And from there on, we built a lot of our own proprietary technologies. We have also used a lot of open source. But that was, I think, 2018 first instance where I started exploring AI and was quite amazed with what it can offer within the testing space itself. So my question to the panelist here is, to begin with, if you can share with us when and under what circumstances you first got introduced to AI, what really triggered this passion towards AI for you, and how you started thinking that AI can be part of your organization within the testing area itself. So probably, Kevin, you can start, share your views for 2 minutes, and then we can go to the next panelist, if is that
Awesome.
okay with
you? Yeah. So for me, I love technology. I've been excited about technology for so long. And I went to a conference, Star West, in 2016. So I beat you by just a couple of years there on getting started. But there was a presentation by Jason Arbon on AI and testing. And at the time, it was like, whatever, we'll go check it out, see what he has to say. And it was one of those visionary presentations. It wasn't, here's what we can do today. It's, here's where it's going. And it got me so excited. I just walked away just pumped, like, yeah, this is exactly what we need to do. And it's taken a little while for things to play out the way he was hoping they would. But, it just gets me excited what AI can do for us, and the excitement now, especially around testing. It seems like it's been so long since we've had real innovation in the testing space. And with AI, I think we're finally starting to see those changes that we've needed, honestly, in the testing space. So that's where it got me excited, where that AI, he called it AI curious. And I was definitely AI curious at the time.
Absolutely. I have been following him for a long time. He's a great personality, and as you rightly mentioned, a visionary in testing for sure.
Yep.
Jonas, maybe if you can share your views on where you start, or where you get this bug.
Yeah, thanks. So for me, it wasn't the talk by Jason Arbon, but maybe another talk from a professor at university. So back then in 2018, 2019, I was still studying. And in previous jobs, my co-founder and myself had this problem with test automation with selectors was painful, and we were visiting like some courses about computer vision, and we were like, man, why don't we apply this to testing, software testing for locating objects? And that's actually where AskUI was born. And then we dig deeper. It turned out to be harder than we thought it is, but that's where it all started, I guess. That was the kicking off project or moment that clicked in my head.
Great to know, Jonas. Aishwarya, you, I mean, I know you from long back when we were just doing manual testing in Oracle. And from that point of time, testing has evolved so much. So what was your, I mean, what was that point of time when you started exploring AI, and how did that happen?
Yeah, sure. So for me, there were two eureka moments when and it was similar time at around 2017, around when we were looking at automation was at the peak, and waterfall was going down, whereas more and more people wanted the agile methodology projects to be delivered. With that, there was a huge impact of speed to market for the testing, right? At that time, we were struggling for the frequent object failures because of the requirement changes and whatnot. I think that was one area where we started looking at that what can help us in making our objects smarter enough to identify the changes itself and auto heal. So that's where I think we started to look more and more about how we can do the auto healing of the objects. That was the first moment where it was an introduction for me. AI driven testing can be brought into this area, and then that's where I started looking out more and more conferences where people were talking about how AI can be brought into testing, right? The second portion was we were working for a few of the heavy insurance projects where the testing data has to be available, and because of the compliance and various issues, I think getting the real testing data was a big deal. So we started to think over that how we can generate the synthetic data which is close to the real production environments, but would also compare and include the outliers. And that's where I think one of the conferences Jason was talking about, that how AI can help in generating the synthetic data. That's where the second part of the test generation data entire journey towards looking at making that as an offering into the solutioning was one of my objectives, and really helped us in looking at the outliers of the testings which were normally not able to test it in during the integrations of the software.
Great to know that, Aishwarya. George, over to you. I mean, you have been a test automation expert, and we have discussed so many problems which
yes.
test automation. So when did the AI bug?
I think it was it was during one of the conversations that I was having with a customer way back in 2017. This topic came up, and this came as a problem statement from the customer. They had around 25,000 tests that they were executing on a website, which was actually used by global users. And he was primarily looking out for a solution that can actually tell his development team or his testing team what their developers have changed in the code, and then prescribe the tests that they should be running. So the customer did not want to run a lot of tests. All the 25,000 tests, and they were looking at running a subset of those tests based on the impact analysis. And they were asking me whether there's a solution that I could actually recommend, maybe an AI-based solution, either custom or maybe a commercial solution. But at that point of time, I did not have a solution in place. But I went back to the same customer in 2019, and we could actually implement this particular solution for them, where they were able to cut down their tests significantly using predictive analytics and a bit of AI. So that shows that the field of AI actually got matured, I would say, in the last couple of years, where way back 2016, 17 was mostly, I would say, a lab topic or a research topic. Now I think I'm seeing organizations doing it at scale. So that has been my experience, Avinash.
Great to know journey from each of you, and I think that will inspire our audience as well, because anytime, any point of time, they can pick up and start if they have not done already. like we have seen the journey of most of the panelists here. So moving on to the next kind of question that I have, and again, a kind of 10,000 view of where do we stand in terms of AI testing trends. So again, each of you, if you can just summarize what are the top testing trends from the AI perspective that you see in today's time. We are sitting in 2023. So what are the trends that we see right now and maybe over a period of next 2 years that will give us a sense of direction to the audience that we have. And they can also go and look at the report that we have generated, because that gives all the summary that we'll be talking about here. But let's hear it from experts. So again, maybe we can start with Kevin. And Kevin, if you can share your view of where do we stand in terms of the trends, that would be a good starting point.
So I think you already mentioned that they should go check out the report. So go check out the report to get a good summary. And with that in mind, I'm just gonna dive into the idea that we're still at the infancy of where we're going. So these are trends, and George, Ash, and Jonas have already mentioned that we saw like object recognition as something, or data generation. And yet these are just little tiny pieces of the puzzle that are being experimented with, or maybe even in production in various places. But we're still, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface on AI actually doing the testing for us. And that's where it gets exciting. So yeah, the AI can help us right now. It's really exciting. I know that this is going to come up, so we'll just talk about it now. ChatGPT can already do some really fun stuff for us. And when you look at the fact that it can help you generate test cases, that's a wonderful start to a trend where we're going to partner with AI to help us do our testing. And I think that to me is the trend, is not AI taking over, but AI partnered software testing, AI partnered software development. And so that trend to me is really exciting, where we start to work with the machines to get our jobs done better, more efficiently, and we'll see where that takes us.
Absolutely. I think it will be reassuring for the audience that it's AI partnered and AI is not taking over the overall testing. And we also feel the same. It's AI augmented rather than AI taking over. So it's a good reassurance for everyone. Again, coming back to Jonas, what do you see, Jonas? You are part of a product which is based out of AI itself. So what are the trends that you see?
Yeah, there are actually multiple, I think. So I think object detection is not a solved problem right now for testing. So I think there's still a lot of doing there. And I think this will still continue because it allows like platform independence and like a lot of different kind of benefits. But I agree with Kevin here that ChatGPT and assisted like generation of test cases is a move forward. I would like to think it one step further. I think if you combine both approaches, you can actually fine-tune models on text to automation. And what I mean by that is that you actually just input natural language automation, like for example, log in with those credentials, and they will be executed on the screen by that. And we're actually looking into something like that right now. I think we are not there yet. There needs to be like some way of like editing what is the outcome of this. But I think that's where we're moving, that you basically describe in natural language what you want to do and then actually get your actionable result on that. And yeah, I think large language models are the first step. Another step would be understanding of user interfaces from a visual perspective, and then a clever way to combining it.
Absolutely. And I think this is the right time because with OpenAPI exposing some of their natural models in such a simple way, I think the AI is available for all of us to use in a very democratic way, which was not possible a few years back when we started. So good time to start looking at those models and start implementing for our audience. Aishwarya, back to you again. What are the trends that you see? I mean, you work with large enterprises, solving some big digital transformation challenges. So what are the trends that you see?
So I think in addition to what Kevin and at it. I see more and more companies looking forward for increasing the speed and the accuracy of the enterprise transformations, as well as in this digital journey when they are moving towards cloud migration or modernization. It becomes very important where you have a heavy business impact. AI models will definitely help in looking at the similar kind of issues happening in that entire industry trends, and helping us generating those kind of test cases which ideally we should be testing in that business flow. So definitely one step above the combinatorics test design techniques. And if we are able to train our models enough on the various issues which have already been occurred in similar kind of modernization and softwares and learn from it, I think the optimized amount of test generation will help in increasing the speed and accuracy of the testing. The second portion is that I'm seeing a trend of new roles which are converging and transforming the tester's job of blending in the AI models with the testing knowledge. And I think in the morning itself, I was talking to somebody who said that ChatGPT and AI is very similar to your close best friends. When you are in desperate need of the advices, you get a multiple advices, but the end of it, you have to apply your mind and decide that what works for you. So ChatGPT and other natural language models will definitely come to your rescue and help you in defining the guidelines of the testing and better insights of the trends and the applications. But at the end of it, it's the testers experience and instincts which will help us in getting to the right solutions. And the third trend which I would see it as the simulation of the complex testing scenarios during the testing integrations, which today I think requires a heavy cost in simulation. I'm not saying that they're not testable, but it is a big question of how much effort you want to put in testing, doing those simulations and testing it. That's where the AI trends are going to be, and helping you to do those simulations beforehand.
Great. We would delve deeper into some of the use cases, Aishwarya, but great insights there. George, for you, what do you see from your customer interactions?
So I think test automation is an area where I've seen the most number of use cases getting implemented. It includes everything around designing tests. It can be maybe generating intelligent unit tests from code, or it can be even generating tests from API definitions, or maybe even generating tests from maybe a user story or anything of that sort. The test design is definitely, I would say, an area where a lot of people are interested. I could actually see maturity growing in this space. As I mentioned earlier, definitely using predictive analytics and other techniques to select the right amount of test or the right test to test your application based on changes. The test execution is also, I would say, the second area within test automation. And I would say, I think maybe the most implemented use case would be around the maintenance part, where you actually, where you basically see a lot of tools which actually has the capabilities to do self-healing when it comes to script maintenance. So these are the three major use cases that I've seen around test automation. I would say healing is the most commonly used one out of these three areas.
Yeah, healing is one of the area I am very interested in, and we have been working, and we have just launched a solution around that. So very excited about that area at a personal level. So I think we have covered a 10,000 view of 10,000 feet overview of where the trends are. So we'll go slightly deeper into specific use cases that you have used personally and seen the benefits. Because one question that I always get is, can you give me some example where you have used and got benefits from the audience? So I think this is the right time where we can talk about some of the specific use cases that we have used across customers or within the products. So maybe again, starting with Kevin. So Kevin, in the report, you mentioned that AI will impact every aspect of SDLC and including testing. So if you can just elaborate on some of the specific use cases that you have seen getting implemented, getting some real benefit within the customer situations, that would really give some good insights to the audience here.
I expect the rest of the panel to cover some really cool stuff, and so I'm going to go super basic. All right, we're gonna go back to just super simple stuff. One of the things that there's lots of code out there, it's super easy to do, is sentiment analysis. So here's an area where it can get really complex, or you can just keep it really simple. And I joined a project team, quick story, I joined a project team where the product had a lot of negativity around it. And my only goal on that team was to turn the tide and make it a positive experience. How would I know if it was a good experience or a bad experience? And what I did is I just grabbed all the feedback and I just ran quick sentiment analysis. You don't even have to know how AI works, by the way. There's easy code out there that you can just throw your data at it, and that model will return if it's positive or negative. And I did that, and it was all negative. The product was not good. But over time, I was able to watch that trend change. And that's an example where everybody on this this webinar today, that's listening today, you can go out and do that. So there's an easy way for you to go immediately apply artificial intelligence to your, we'll call it testing. I know that technically that wasn't the testing part, it was the results, but you can apply that today. And as soon as you do that, you're going to say, wait, I could use this on my test cases, because then I can determine, do I have negative test cases, right? Am I testing the bad results or the negative scenarios, or am I not? And immediately you've applied artificial intelligence to your test cases as well. So those are very simple ways to get introduced into artificial intelligence today.
Oh, amazing example, Kevin. I think something which is really relevant, and we see a lot of our customers coming back and asking for sentiment analysis. Can you give us a solution? So I think it's a very, very important and effective use cases that anyone can pick it up. So thanks for sharing. The next, Jonas, to you again. You are building a product which is using core AI as one of the component. So can you just give us a little more detail about the use case that you're trying to solve and how it benefits a customer?
So for us, business value was always like the main focus, and we just used or had AI as one way in solving it, or leveraging like AI to drive business value. And the main area is basically, we have seen a lot of customers trying to automate across different kind of systems. Windows automation, it was super painful for a lot of people to get selectors. Then it's super painful for people to somehow get automation IDs with the development team, and it's all around this like hard to access elements, especially in a native environment. So very regulated native environments, desktop automation, macOS automation, Android automation, and even orchestrating all these together. So we had people end-to-end automation. How do you build, for example, a two-factor authentication real end-to-end? So I log in a web application, then I have my mobile phone with authentication app, scrape the data there, and paste it into like the web application again on a different device. And basically, we solved this problem by building an automation engine, which can run operating systems instead of applications. And then you just run into the problem that you don't know how to access the elements. And that's where the AI part comes into place. So, and like having selectors wasn't really an option because we're driving operating systems. So we said, okay, one way to do it is use object detection, just take screenshots of the application, have a model trained on UI elements, and use that for selecting the elements. And then we could build a system which can end-to-end automate and orchestrate through different kind of devices, native applications, and we wouldn't bother about what tech stack the actual application is built in. And that's what we are building with Oscar.
Awesome. So is it only applicable for the operating system level transformations, or can it be applied to any other applications as well, like any mobile
Well,
or a web?
yeah, it can be applied basically to any application running on top of that operating system. So we are always like driving the operating system, and if you have a mobile application running there, you can access that mobile application or that desktop application. So that's the thinking behind it.
Yeah, a big area. I mean, we all have seen in test automation how the object identification fails, and that's one of the major area why the automation projects are not that successful. So if that's that's an area where we are using AI to solve, it's a great use case, and I think a lot of customers will benefit from it. Coming back to you, Aishwarya, I think you have mentioned some very interesting use cases in the report. Especially around large, complex insurance claim applications using test combinatorial design to optimize the testing, right? And optimizing testing, I think, again, has been a problem from quite some time back, and a lot of methods have been used. I think with AI, we are seeing a stage where I think we'll find some good solutions. So can you just explain some of the use cases that you tried for optimizing the test cases and also solving some of the test design issues that you mentioned in the report?
Sure. So this all started with, where we were working for one of the largest US firms for claims processing, and the data was huge, and we had to build an application where we were seeing frequent failures in production. Now, because of the fact that we started with the objective of what are the areas in the claims processing which we would like to test, we looked at the normal industry flow of the claims processes, and we gathered some of the data which were generally available, not just only for that particular firm, but across the industry, so that we are able to benchmark the data first. We cleansed it, did all of that formatting and other things, and after that we put into the machine learning algorithms to train themselves on the claims processing industry workflows, so that it is able to identify the patterns and the trends in the claims process. Now, what it helped, it actually helped us in identifying and pinpointing the major issue areas where most of the insurance softwares fail. And that output was taken and fed into the combinatorial test design technique, which actually is a statistical organized method which runs in the algorithms and identify the best optimized key features and test cases to be tested, so that it is covering across your functionality. And if there are any point of variations in your software, that it will ensure that it is tested with that minimal number of test cases. Now, this not only helped us in arriving at an optimized number of test cases. When I say optimized, it's actually kept in mind that not only the positive test cases, but the negative test scenarios, as well as the outliers are being combined into the test generation cases. And ultimately, the machine algorithms which we trained were also used in generating the synthetic data, because it was already trained on the amount of claims processes which were available. That helped us in building test generation as well as the test data with almost 98% accuracy. And believe me, we were able to release that software within time with 0 defects. So that was quite an achievement. But I would say that there was an ample amount of testing knowledge blended with the data science learnings went into do that. So I just want to give one caution there, that when you're planning for such kind of large scale testings, it is very important to blend in both the expertise and not just go with only data scientists or only testers.
So I think great example of vertical domain specific AI implementations. And we all know AI has been used from quite some time around classifications, right? Classification is one use case where AI works really well. And I think be it bug classification or test classification, I think most of the audience can start thinking about where they can use within their organizations. George, coming back to you, you have been talking about using AI in automation. So can you give us some specific use case that you have implemented and kind of benefits with an example?
Maybe I think we'll talk about again the self-healing, which is a common problem, or the common problem that you see with organizations who have achieved high amount of automation coverage is the amount of effort that you actually put in order to maintain your scripts. So you may be running maybe thousands of automation scripts during a regression cycle, and you may actually have maybe 10 or 15% of them failing, not because of a product defect, because of the issue with the script. Then typically what happens is you basically try to actually look into the issue, why it has failed. And if you're working with maybe an open source kind of a solution, you may not get a lot of time to actually fix those 15% of scripts that have failed. And you end up doing manual testing for those scripts, which you are already automated. So at the end of the day, you've invested in automation, but you're spending a lot of time in actually doing manual testing now because your scripts are not able to do their job because of the issues. And scripts fails due to multiple reasons. So it can be basically because your object properties have been modified by your developer, or the developer decided to move a control maybe from the left side of the screen to the right-hand side. Or sometimes it can be a synchronization issue where your application is too fast or too slow, or you may actually get some kind of pop-ups or exceptions. So it can be due to multiple reasons. So if you are able to implement a self-healing capability into your application or to your to your automation tool or framework, you can actually get rid of a lot of these maintenance effort that may be required to be done by an automation engineer in a manual mode. So you can basically automate the script maintenance by actually developing an algorithm or a piece of code that can actually first look at why a script has failed, then look at the ways of solving it depending on the type of issue that you have. For example, if you're having a object property change, the algorithm should be able to go ahead and fix the issue or use a different technique to recognize the object. Or if it's basically an issue with maybe synchronization, you should be able to execute the scripts with maybe a different time settings or configuration setting. So these are types of issues that I've seen, and I wouldn't say it's like 100% accurate, but I've seen accuracy levels up to like 90%. That is considerable in the sense like if you're able to solve 90% of your script errors without having a human getting involved, I think it makes a lot of it gives us a lot of benefits. So I would say like it may not be easy to implement it. I've done this once when we tried to implement this as a part of product. It almost took, I think, a 5-member team to at least 4 to 5 months to get to a decent stage. So it's not easy, but it requires a lot of improvisation, but it's definitely doable. And it actually saves a lot of your effort. And I think that's one of the important use cases, or the the best use cases that I've seen around test automation, Avinash.
Great. So I can already see a lot of questions coming in. And I think I would like to open that session to the audience. But before that, I think there are a lot of people who are kind of thinking to start implementing AI within their organizations. So a last concluding remark from the panel here before we open up for the question is, if anyone wants to start implementing AI from the very beginning, what advice would you give? How should they start thinking about it? And there are a lot of questions already around it. How do we start? So probably this question will answer a lot of their doubts. So maybe we can go with Kevin first, and then we can go to the other panelists. So Kevin, what advice would you give anyone who is looking to start from the beginning?
I would suggest that there are 2 different ways to look at AI. There are those who are going to use it, and there are those who are going to build it. So do you want to see what's happening and how you can use an AI tool? Then go try out ChatGPT, or go do a quick, use something like Applitools and just try it out to see what it does. But those who are actually curious on how to build AI, the things that have been suggested today in the panel are things that you're going to have to write some code. You're going to have to understand how it works. And if you want to do that, then understand that it's some work. You're going to have to learn how it works. And that means taking a few courses, reading a few books, experimenting, try it out. Don't be afraid. Play around with AI. It's not going to take over your machine. It's not going to ruin the world. It's just some simple models. You're going to train it with some data. You're going to see what it does, and solve really, really small problems. Don't start with how does AI take over testing? That's not a good first problem to solve. Start with something simple like, hey, Jonas, as I mentioned, object recognition. Can you get a classifier to work? Just try to get one classifier to work and see how that helps maybe solve one button in object recognition in your automation, and implement that, and just be happy with that. So one option, go use some AI like ChatGPT. Option two, know that it's going to take some work, and start to dig in and learn how the code works.
Absolutely. A very nice way to put it, Kevin. Understanding versus building. I think that differentiation is very important for anyone to understand. Jonas, from your side, what suggestion do you have for anyone who is looking to start the AI journey?
Yep. So I would like to propose, don't think about the AI part, always think in business value. I actually think the best AI tool out there is a tool where the user doesn't know that it uses AI, but just like generates value for the users. So if you think always like, okay, so I have this problem in my organization, don't just implement an AI tool because you think, okay, AI is like a hype, I need to implement it. Just think, okay, I have this problem. Classical approaches cannot solve this problem. And then there might be an AI approach which can solve this. And if that's the case, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just look what's out there. Are there existing frameworks? Because reinventing the wheel in AI is very hard. I can promise you that. There will be a lot of developer resourcing going into that until you figure out how you actually develop models and stuff like that. And then see if that solves your problem. So I would like to propose, just think like a user would, and then go from there.
I always remember the quote from Steve Jobs, think of the customer first and think of the tech later. So I think that's the message, which is very clear, that don't just use AI for the sake of it. Identify the problem and then see what are the ways to solve it. And AI definitely is one way which we can kind of solve the problem much faster. Great, Jonas. Aishwarya, to you again, what advice do you have for anyone who is looking to start their journey in AI?
So I think I already covered a little bit of it in terms of the skills and other things, but I'll because the simplest part of it Kevin has already covered, I'll go looking at the enterprises who are trying to adopt the AI-driven testing. First and foremost, I think it's very important to align to the AI strategy of the organization. Look at how your organization has got a vision to move towards the AI driven, align to that part. Second is invest in skills, understanding part of it, because your domain knowledge, your testing knowledge and understanding of the AI and specifically building in the responsible AI is very important while you're going to generate and drive the testing scenarios. Utilizing AI, it's very important to understand that you're not getting into any kind of a compliance issues or other things. So take care of that. Look at what are the different use cases which you would like to pick and do the pilots around those testing scenarios, because see, it's not a bulk implementation, right? You have to understand that not everything will apply to AI driven testing. So it's important to look at, carefully choose the use cases which you would like to go for driving the testing via AI, like the object identification, because it's almost the effort versus the kind of return you're going to get out of this implementation, right? And last but not the least, continuously monitor and validate your implementations for a scalable aspect of it. And once you have seen the pilots getting successful, there are ample amount of innovative areas where you can go and scale it up. So I will leave to that point.
Yeah, good suggestions, Aishwarya, for enterprises. George, from your side, what suggestions do you have?
Yeah, okay. So I think these suggestions are more applicable around the fact that you're trying to implement a solution on your own. For example, instead of implementing a commercial solution with AI capabilities, if you decide to build it in-house, there are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. One is setting the right expectations with stakeholders. Things are not going to happen when you actually switch on the application. It will not start testing or it will not solve your problem immediately. There is a time period that is required to implement and as well as to get to an accuracy level. But very often what I've seen is like the stakeholders lose their patience maybe after 2 or 3 weeks. They would definitely expect the results to come in. That may not be the case if you're trying to solve a problem. It can be as simple as maybe a problem that you're trying to solve, maybe for defect classification, for example. It may take maybe like weeks together to get to a good state, and you may need to educate your stakeholders around the challenges and the timeline that it might take to get to a decent accuracy level. The second one is around data. For example, the same example around defect, classification. If you don't have enough defect data, your solutions team or your team that is developing the solution will not be able to design or train a model or even test it if there's no data given to them. So you need to make sure that if you are actually able to give large volume of data as well as good quality data, your solutions will have better accuracy level. So dealing with the right amount of data with the right quality and quantity is very important if you want to get to your accuracy level. And as I was telling earlier, you need to definitely improvise over a period of time. So you should be open for continuously improving your solution. You should actually look at taking feedback from your actual users of these applications or tools that you've developed using AI, and it should be continuously improving. So you can actually get to maybe like 90% of accuracy for self-healing, but 90% may not come during the first build or the first version of product that you're releasing. It may come maybe after the fifth or sixth, but you should be actually receptive to feedback. At the same time, you should actually be ready to implement those changes inside your code so that you can actually improve. And it's actually a journey that may take a couple of weeks or months. So these are the 3 things that I would actually mention around the things that you should be actually taking care when you're actually implementing anything around AI.
Absolutely. I think great insights from all of you. I was so much that I picked up from today's panel, and I'm sure audience has got those great insights as well. And I can see a lot of questions pouring in. I will try to cover as much as I can because we have a time limit as well. But if you're not able to answer, we will try to send you the answers offline as well. So I will probably start with the first question from Abhay, and I think that's directed to Aishwarya. What industry standard AI-based tools do you have now for synthetic test data generation? So do you use any industry standard tool, or you have in-house, Aishwarya? What suggestion do you have?
So we had a proprietary test data generators, which we have built in backed by the IBM research labs earlier, because I was giving the examples and I was closely working with the IBM research labs. But at the same time, I think we were looking at some of the test data generators automatically, which are available with their clients, right? Because every client has their preferences. So we were looking at some of the APIs which can be plugged in directly to the synthetic data generators and can be utilized. But for our own testing purpose, it was the homegrown generator tool.
Okay, great. Kevin, maybe you can take this from Soumya Rajan. It's about sentiment analysis. It says that I believe predictive analysis modeling with AI and ML can be applied on customer sentiment analysis. And then the data can be utilized to generate test data and test cases for various testing of multiple CRM applications for better success and marketing automation, product building. Do you have any thoughts on this in real world?
George, did you want to take that, or do you want me to take that?
Maybe I can take it
awesome.
up. Maybe that's one of the areas where I was doing some research. So customer sentiment analysis is actually a very good area where you should be able to generate insights on many things. One is, how is your customer using your product? And then you can actually decide upon what you should be testing in your subsequent builds or in your subsequent releases. And also understand the feel of the customer in terms of how they are feeling in terms of positive or a negative sentiment. And also look at what type of issues are actually surfacing in the sentiments or in the feedback that your customer has actually given. For example, the customer might have actually provided feedback in a social media forum or inside an app store, which can be actually further analyzed, and then you can actually get to a state and understand like whether the customers are actually facing functional issues, performance related issues, or maybe user experience related issues when he or she is actually using your product. So there are a lot of sentiment analysis techniques as well as classification techniques that you can actually apply in order to get insights on how your customers are using their product and how we can further improve the product based on the feedback that the customer is actually giving. But the sad part is rarely, forget about AI, rarely the testers spend time in looking at what the customers are talking about your product. Once the build is pushed into production, your job stops there, but that's not the fact. You should be constantly looking at these feedbacks and then looking at ways to improve your product. And customer sentiment analysis is a very good example. And I think it can be one of the easiest use cases to solve because there are a lot of algorithms out there that actually has this capability.
Awesome. Kevin, you want to add something on this question?
Yeah, I mean, we can just take what George just described, and then you can bring that back into what was suggested was, now you can create test cases off of that, right? And again, that's just the natural progression. As you start down this path, start simple. That's what I keep mentioning is please start really, really simple. But then you go, ooh, if I did that, I could do this other thing. If I did that, I could do this other thing. So if you can, the hardest part that we've all described is getting the data. If you can go out and get the data from your customers, meaning, the feedback, if you can get the data on what how they're using your product, then the models are there. That's actually, ironically, the easier part is running a model on the data if you can get the data. And then creating test cases from that data is actually not that hard, but you have to have the data to then generate the test cases.
And one very interesting point, Kevin, what you talked about is we actually try to implement the sentiment analytics on our defects data, because what the kind of frustration the people put in while raising the defects. I think you get a lot of insights from that data as well.
Yeah.
Two similar questions from Naresh and Kunal around API test automation. So can AI be used within API test automation? Anyone has any suggestion? Any one of you can take it up. I'll leave that to the forum.
Sure. So I think there were a bit of chunks where we were looking into the APIs to be tested. And there are techniques based on which you can actually generate the test cases from the YAML files directly, believe me. And we can actually read through the YAML files, the models or the crawlers which can go through the YAML files, pick up the keywords, key in the data sheets to the YAML files, and generate the test cases automatically, the test models automatically from the YAML files. That kind of API automation can be a perfect use case for the AI testing.
Great. Another question from Prabhakar. What AI tools or AI-based testing tools are improving the testing better in the area of test data, test execution, and test maintenance? Are there any tools currently available in the market, or is there any guidance or the checklist which audience can follow? George, you want to take it up?
Yeah, there are multiple tools, and the tools will actually vary depending on the use case. For example, if you're actually looking at maybe something like providing faster feedback to developers, something like a certifier bot, like the autonomous bot to provide feedback on mobile apps would actually work. Or if you're actually dealing with something around predictive analytics, where you want to decide upon what kind of tests you need to execute based on the changes that your development team has done, or based on a previous run, you can go with Launchable or a product like CLights. Or if you want to look at self-healing, there are multiple tools. You can use Opkey or Functionize, Tosca self-healing. So there are multiple tools, but there's no universal tool or one tool that will actually solve all your problems. These are tools that are specifically designed to address a specific problem. So you may not be able to solve more than one problem using each of these tools.
I'd say that goes back to what Jonas said earlier as well, and that is, what is the problem that you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
If you're just asking any of us on the panel right now, what tool should I use? We don't know. We'd love to promote all of our own tools, but the reality is you need to tell us what the problem is, and then we can help you solve the problem. And Jonas pointed out, it may not be AI. As much as we all love AI and we want AI to solve all these problems, it may not be the right solution. You know, use the simplest solution. That's the best option.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, a lot of questions gets answered from what you said, Kevin. Don't look at the tool in the beginning, think of the problem statement, and then figure out how AI can solve. Tools will follow. So Kiran had similar kind of question. I hope that gets answered. Then there is a questions around business goals from Ayaz. So what you as a team decide to take help of AI to achieve a business goal? So what steps did you take if you have an existing framework? Or what were some of the pitfalls where AI did not help and you had to come back to the traditional approach? Very interesting question. I think a lot of times we have seen we start implementing AI and it fails and we come back to the traditional approach. So any examples or any interesting anecdotes there?
I mean, I might have one. So I was talking to one customer and he was trying to use like object detection for his test automation and finding objects in OCR for like locating text and stuff like that. It turned out it was completely the wrong approach because he was testing calculators. So you have to think AI is still a statistical method, and what he was trying to do is like actually validate that 2 + 2 is 4, like in a calculator. But OCR is not 100% correct. So if you need like 100% accuracy on like specific stuffs, AI might not be the tool to go with, because he got like maybe sometimes it wasn't 2567, sometimes it would detect it as 2568 or something. And that's, you have to be aware of that it will not be 100% accurate. And if you have test cases which need to be 100% accurate, AI might fail.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
in fact, yes. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go
just
ahead.
to add to what it said, see, there are scenarios, and I was talking about when you are planning to implement AI, look at what are the best use cases, repetitively high manual effort, which requires AI help, should be automated. Not everything is suitable for the AI applications, right? Again, it's effort versus what you're trying to do. A classic example, what Jasin talked about. And I think the contrary part of it, if you look at the visual testing nowadays, I think visual testing has been one of the areas where you have to do the pixel by pixel comparisons, changes, and other things. I think manually doing it is a tedious task, and that's where AI comes to the rescue, where you can easily apply the computer vision technology to do that visual testing comparisons. So that's a classic example of where you should use AI and where you should not be using it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in the interest of time, we'll take one last question. There are so many. As I promised, we'll try to send you the answers individually, or we'll publish all the answers. So one last question. Did you see any use cases for improving mobile application performance or end user experience using AI? If so, can you please explain on how do we design and implement the same? Interesting one. We deal with mobile application all the time, and this is a very relevant question. So anyone wants to add or answer this?
I think you'll be the right person, Avinash. You can talk about how Certify helps.
To answer that.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as just mentioned visual AI, and I think visual AI works perfectly, not perfectly in the sense visual AI is one of the areas that can be used to improve the customer experience. In mobile application, cross-device compatibility testing is one big area which kind of destroys the user experience in so many applications that we have seen. So visual AI is one way to do that. Self-healing, because in mobile application, You rely a lot on automation. And again, during cross-compatibility testing, your object locators change, your scripts fail. So self-healing can be a good area to implement in the mobile application testing space. So these two we have seen effectively working. We have launched our solutions within these two areas. So I would suggest go ahead and check it out. So I think with that, I would really thank all of you for this engaging discussion. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure looking at the response and the kind of questions audience have already kind of given the verdict. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Lovely having you here. We hope to connect back again and discuss more on this. There is so much to discuss and take it from here. Have a good day, good night, depending on where you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.